What up, cappers, gamblers, punters, hustlers, low baggers? Another glorious day of being a sports gambler. My God, I'm pumped up. I have a massive investment fading Caden Salter tonight. He'll be wearing his BC Lions jersey starting at quarterback for the first time in his career. And I awake to Toby Lane saying that his play of the day is the Lions money line. Which is, we're not here to agree with each other and sing kumbaya, but it is the biggest investment I've made on a regular season CFL game in 10 plus years. Toby Lane, my guy, his play of the day is the BC Lions, whom I'm fading. Says, I think that Salter is fitting the CFL perfectly. He is a dual threat. We've seen a lot of dual threats come up to the CFL over the years and get annihilated. How long was Andre Ware's CFL career? I mean, even the high draft picks in the NFL have come up to the CFL and not delivered. But we shall see. We shall see. Shout out to Toby Lane. We got Louisville Gambler ready to get to work. Stacks plays of the day are in. Caglione over 2.5 hits, runs, and RBIs, and Braves Nationals over 9.5, which I'm also on, which I love to hear. Light Cheese ready to get to work. Bogey Boy, Walla Dose, Turnbuckle, Tommy. And Light Cheese bet on the CFL for the first time last night under 54.5 in the Winnipeg BC game. I like that, Light Cheese. That line's not been moving, which has surprised me. Mark Stasowski in the house. So let's get to work. Thank you guys so much for joining us. I'm pumped up about this card. I have attacked it with great vengeance here. Now, there was a major pitching change, which voided my first two bets on the card. The LA Dodgers, Seattle, first 3 under 3, full game under 9 were voided. But that hasn't stopped 15 bets on 10 games in MLB, 3 bets in WNBA, and then 7 on 1 game in the Canadian Football League. We got Kelly McKinnon ready to go. Daniel Anderson says, let's win. Yes, let's. And there is Matty Ice, fresh off another casher. On the Taint play of the day. Dougie Wise. So we got free bands in the house. Thank you guys all for joining us. Well, let's just attack. I'm pumped up about this card. We start at 12:10 p.m. Eastern. Texas Rangers 55-52, 27-27 on the road at the Rays, 62-44. Now 63-44, 39-16 at home. We're at the Trop in St. Petersburg, Florida. Mark A, great to see you. Another day of action awaits for us. And we have Wynn. We had to study who Cole Wynn was last night on the Late Show, as we had assumed that this was Nathan Eovaldi Day. It turns out that Marco Gonzalez is the primary, and Cole Wynn is the starter. The line came out expecting Nathan Eovaldi on the hill. We are not getting that from the Texas Rangers. It is similar to what the Milwaukee Brewers did yesterday, where it was, a travel day. They're playing good ball. They pushed their starter back. Shane Johan brought in a starter who hadn't pitched in Major League Baseball in 3 years. Or actually, had he not started? God, well, it'd been a long time since Pannone had started in Major League Baseball. And they just, as Morgan Spooner called it, punted on third down. Now, we don't say that in Canada, of course, because we have 3-down football. But punted on third down. And it feels very, very similar right here. Very, very similar. Taint play of the day is in 14-2, the last 16 Taints. What a monster. And the free bands play today is in as well. Let's copy and paste all this. But this line opened up at minus 110. And even that was a surprise. There was enormous amounts of respect being given to Nathan Eovaldi. And for good reason. Nathan Eovaldi is not become the starter. And we saw this line moving quickly. Now, it had only moved 10 or 15 cents when we were here last night. It kept moving and moving. BT in the house. T-Moss ready to get to work. I've copied and pasted Matty Ice's action. I've copied and pasted Dougie Wise's 2-unit banger as well. So here for me, this became a smash and grab. The only concern with Shane McClanahan on the hill is not Shane McClanahan. It's that the Rangers have been annihilating lefties. Well, they didn't yesterday. And why would they do this today? We have Guillermo Zertucci, Ready Rock, Justin McKelvey, Rays -1.5 at +135. And Wager Detective talking about Marco Gonzalez, as we were just, as well as the primary. Marco Gonzalez is not thrown in the show this year. We're not sure what we are going to get from the lefty, but this is a dangerous Rays ball club to be going up against. Let's talk about McClanahan. July 24th, this last start was a great bounce-back start after a poor start coming out of the All-Star break. Now, we've been talking about the last few days about how we should fade these vets in their first game after the All-Star break, but we're not going to have the opportunity to do that for another 350 days. So we got to focus on how to attack this card. And that was the one bad start over his last 4. Now, Shane McClanahan has 2 bad starts over his last 5. He has 4 bad starts over his last 8. So he's not pitching. I even take that away. 5 bad starts over his last 8. He has had 2 shutout starts. Now he won 6 and 6 1/3 respectively. Look, we believe in Shane McClanahan. 3.09 ERA, 1.14 WHIPs, got a 4.16 expected ERA. They have been giving him more time between starts. His velocity dipped at one point. It's come back. And the line has moved accordingly. When it comes to the bullpens, as is being mentioned in the chat by T-Moss, the Rays bullpen is elite. They're the only team here in Major League Baseball that have, now the White Sox have flirted with it, a couple teams flirted with it, but have a whip over the last 30 days under 1. And the Rangers bullpen has looked bad. Now it's looked a little better of late, but it's just looked bad. Look at the bullpen trajectory. Look at the rolling ERA of the Tampa Bay Rays bullpen. Good God, are they strong. And then when it comes to the sticks, the Rangers have been hitting lefties hard. Well, they didn't yesterday. So I didn't add the stats from last night to the last 30 days. The last 30 days is the 29th to the 29th, unfortunately. So I had this written in for the last night's show. 316, 883, but we know that's dropping. And we can trust the Rays, whether it's lefties, righties, we can just trust the Rays. And they're going to face both lefties and righties today. Let's get into the line history here. I got in late. I got in at -134. I got in late, but this line is just move up, and away. First off, from a total perspective, it opened up at 7.5. There's been a 5-cent move towards the over. And then let's get the cash flow up here as well. Then from a money line standpoint, we are now at -160. Heritage is at -165. I'm looking at a -174. I mean, it's just, this line is flying. I mean, it's flying so fast, -190s aren't out of the question. Mark Sasowski, this line is flying, just moved another 10 cents. 365's at -170. Good God. That's crazy because I just looked, or I guess it was already after the show last night. Last night it was -150 after the show. So it's just flying, absolutely flying. When we take a look at the cash flow, as we said, 87 and 77 on the Rays and 68 and 95 on the over. This does give us another opportunity here with our graphics. So the graphics are going to show you what the cash flow was right at 10 a.m. Eastern and 7 a.m. Pacific. As the board updates, I will tell you the differences. And when I think we can utilize this as well. So right now, it's now 87, 88% of the cash on the Rays. And that's only in the last, 15 minutes that even more cash and bigger bets are coming in on the Rays. And then you have 73% of the tickets and 95% of cash on the over. But I just kept it clean. I just kept it real clean. Let's let the Rays just wear down the Texas Rangers. Now, you guys know that I think that the Winnipeg Blue Bombers double result is the best bet on the table today. I think the Las Vegas Aces double result is a very good bet. But the Bombers double result can be a parlay piece. If you're looking here at the Rays at -170, you're like, it's too expensive. I do believe that we have a parlay piece on the table today that has a very high likelihood of cashing. Very, very high likelihood of cashing. So, and Wager Detective says fade the steam. If you're going to fade the steam, which there's nothing wrong with that, I would wait. You don't need to fade the steam early. You want to get every last cent fading the steam. So I would wait. I would wait until almost first pitch before I moved on the other side. Resident Codes in the house. We got Flank Steak Play today in as well. Mark's this house. He said, I was questioning why this was minus 135 last night with Win announced. I could not understand it. Now it's too late. Yeah, because, well, you know what, Mark? When was first announced, my first instinct was, could they be using an opener for Eovaldi? Now, we know that that's never happened before, so I changed that. Turnbuckle Tommy says, Rays last 7 games, 219 average with 364 slugging, 617 OPS, and 63 weighted runs created. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with their lack of offense over last week, but it's an important stat. We got Wine Time Sports in the house. Josh Witt ready to get to work. Turnbuckle Tommy says McClanahan 2 career state starts versus the Rangers with a 3.46 ERA, 0.62 whip, and a 156 average against with an average of 6.5 innings pitched. These are great stats you guys are dropping in the chat. Thank you for doing that. I'm just going to copy and paste here. 9 legacies action as I do. And we're going to roll on. I'm hopeful. I've got a lot of hope today. The sun is shining, and we got afternoon baseball. Life is pretty good. Let's move on to the next spot on the board here in Dougie Wise. Royals first 5 plus 110, and we got Rays Rangers under 7.5 from Wine Time Sports. We move on to our next spot on the board. 1:40 p.m. Eastern. Kansas City Royals at the Minnesota Twins. Royals 45-63, 19-36 on the road. Just a debacle of a season. These Minnesota Twins, 53-54, 29-26 at home. We're at Target Field in Minneapolis, Minnesota. We have Turnbuckle Tommy says, love the unders here. Louisville Gambler says the WNBA pissed me off last night, man. Louisville Gambler, the WNBA is part of the reason I am in such a good mood. We just faded the public last night and were richly rewarded. Kept it pretty simple. It felt good. I had the night before I'd lost one bet by a half point, another bet by 1.5. So catching the dream was nice. And then, also on our live show, we said you have to bet the Mercury plus 12.5 right now. I didn't have my phone on me, and then I was sitting there with Swig waiting for it to get back to the 12.5. And we heard Rod Zwacky say this is a 10-star live bet, a 10-star live bet on Mercury plus 12.5. They won outright. But I know that what is good for one, maybe not great for another, and I'm sorry that it didn't work out for you. But it's part of the reason why I'm such a good mood. We have action here. We have action. So let's get rolling here. TV Jones says Royals up. Great to see you, TV Jones. And Justin McKelvey stacks play day number 1. Jack Caglione over 2.5 hits, runs, and RBIs. So let's respect and shout out our guy. Stacks play of the day. Stacks. Shout out to Morgan Spooner. We feel we're forming like a Voltron here. Louisville Gambler, it's the highs and lows of what we do each and every day are very, very difficult. And I hope that it turns around for you here today, my friend. Bogey Boy, Kansas City, Minnesota, first 5 under and full game under. Ober good at home. Cameron, good numbers versus Minnesota. So let's get to work here and break down this situation we find ourselves in. Let's start with the target field. Just target field in and of itself. I guess I don't have ballpark pal. Can you put it back up here? I'll get my ballpark pal up. So we have minus 5% runs, minus 8% homers, plus 1% doubles and triples, and minus 4% singles. Let me get my ballpark pal back up here as well. So then we move on to Noah Cameron. He's been a tricky cap. There's no doubt about him being a tricky cap. It's similar to Trevor Rogers. We have lefties who were spectacular in 2025. I mean, Noah Cameron was so strong. 2.99 ERA, 1.10 whip. I mean, he just looks so good. And then he's not followed that up this year. 4.93 ERA, 1.41 whip. There's just my 2 cents in the house. Pub Sports MMA rocked their big breakdown of the fights this week last night. I'll post it on my X here right after the show, but I watched. It was great. They do a great job. Turnbuckle Tommy says Twins with 56 plate appearances versus Cameron with a 222 average and a 510 OPS. And he had his first start of the season against the Twins. And in that first start of the season, we thought he was going to be, big this year. And that's not been the case. Now, in his last opportunity to pitch, Beck Way opened and he went up against Tariq Skubal. Beck Way allowed 2 runs in the first inning. And then Noah Cameron came in and shut it down, completely shut it down. 7 innings, 2 hits, no earned runs, 8 Ks, 3 walks, and 2-1 loss to the Tigers. I want to believe that he's turned the corner, but the 2 starts before that, going into the All-Star break and the first one after the All-Star break, he combined to throw 12 innings, allow 14 hits and 12 earned runs, 4 homers. But I understand that Buxton's out of the lineup, Witt's out of the lineup, and these 2 teams aren't hitting. So I get that side of things. We have greetings from Central Europe. Are you on anything on? Yes, I moved on the Rays, Justin. I moved on the Rays, but it's become extremely expensive with the pitching change. I got minus 134. It's now up to minus 170 and minus 175 at some books. So it's very, very expensive. Spooner, that is great news there. Glad to hear that you text our friend one hole. Bailey Ober on the other side, 7-3, 4.56 ERA, 1.25 whips, got a 4.42 expected ERA. I think when I'm looking at Bailey Ober right now, that I just kind of want to focus on what he has done since he went on the IL with the right flexor strain. So I think it's fair to put kind of a line through the first chunk of the season for him. He went on the IL with the right flexor strain on May 30th, and he came out on July 9th. So, we have an opportunity to back a pitcher who wasn't dealing with an arm-related ailment. Thursday, July 9th, the first time we saw him, he allowed 1 earned run over 5 innings at home to the Guardians, then 2 earned runs over 5 1/3 at the Cubs. And then he got touched up in his last start at the Guardians. But now he comes back home. Bullpen-wise, this Guardians bullpen is elite. 2.99 ERA, 1.16 whip. Royals bullpen, 4.65 ERA, 1.44 whip. Of course, these are the last 30-day stats. And then we have the sticks, and these teams are not hitting. Oh, did I say the Guardians bullpen? God, why did I do that again? The Twins bullpen. The Twins bullpen's been much, much better. Much, much better of late. The Twins bullpen's been a problem all season long, and now we're almost at, 20 games now, almost a month of them pitching very well. I listened to an interview of the general manager. He said they're out there, they're actively trying to procure bullpen help as we speak. And then when we look at this Royals bullpen, they've been much better of late. Well, when we get to the sticks, neither team is hitting righties right now. So here we go. Spooner is on the first 3 under 2.5 at plus 125. I respect it enormously. But my balls are not nearly the size of Morgan Spooner's balls that touch toilet water each and every morning when he starts the day. My very tiny balls took the first 3 under 3. I took the first 3 under 3 at minus 123. I didn't get the plus. I offered the plus 125. I got offered the plus 120 on the first 3 under 2.5. But I need the push. I need the push. I'm a very safe gambler at times, and I wanted to push and play. So I am only on that. Now, Elio talked to us about that bet. On the nightly bag. That was the move that he was on. He jumped on the first 3 under on Wednesday, and he was going to go right back to the well on Thursday. So let's take a look at the line history as I moved on that first 3 under as well. We've had 1 cent of movement towards Bailey Ober. Very lukewarm movement, minus 135 to minus 136. From a total perspective here, we are dealing with a 9. This opened up at 9.5. It's still juiced to the over at 9s. And then when we get to the cash flow here for our second spot on the board, here we go. Sorry, blowing past. When we get to the cash flow for our second spot on the board, we have 74% of the tickets and 82% of the cash on the Twins. The line's not moving towards the Twins. We have 63% of tickets on the under, but 71% of cash on the over. Also, the legal American books have much higher total, not much, but legitimately higher totals and more juice on the overs than the offshores. The over 9s are juiced at minus 120 to minus 122 at most of them. Some are at minus 115, but I'd say on average 5 cents, 6 cents more juice on anyone who wants the over. But that's it for me. Simple. First 3 under 3 minus 123. I used the Z code system run calculator to build the 3. It wasn't being offered. This is a calculator that Ron Crawford gave us many moons ago, and it's extremely useful. I'll pop it there in the chat for anybody who wants to use it here. Anybody who wants to use it. So before we roll on to game 3 on the card, I just want to mention that our friend Robert Cherry and his family are dealing with a very tough time right now. They had to lay Robert's sister to rest. She died due to breast cancer, and it's very sad for the family. And they're trying to raise money here to give her a proper burial. And it's very expensive, these things. He's put together a GoFundMe. I'm going to pop this GoFundMe here in the chat. If anybody can help, I know a lot of low baggers have stepped up and helped out monetarily. If you can just, spiritually, that's still, something. So any love we can give to the Robert Cherry family, whether it be cash or our thoughts, is very important. So it's right there in the chat. Sharpie ready to get to work. There's Philly Eagle Flyer. He's on tied after 2 innings in this game and the Cards game. Let's get to work. Frosty liking the Royals here. I'm just on that first 3 under 3. Let's move on. Yankees, White Sox. This is a big investment for me. We're in right field in Chicago, Illinois. Yankees 61 and 46, 35 and 23 on the road. White Sox 55 and 51, 32 and 21 at home. And I went through the whole gamut in this game. I mean, this game I spent a ton of energy thinking about it, sitting with it. We have the free bands play the day here on the Chicago White Sox. We have Ryan Weathers, the lefty, going up against Sean Burke. My immediate plan was to back the White Sox first 3 and first 5. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And there was a couple bets I had queued up. This is the only bet that I queued up that I didn't end up moving on. And that's just the first 3. By the way, the I have a sickness play of the day is 2-0. I don't know if we have one here. We'll see. I think we do, actually. We do have an I have a sickness play of the day. I think we do. But 2-0 on those. Here, as I had this bet queued up, I couldn't press the button, and it was due to Ryan Weathers. Let's talk about Ryan Weathers here a little bit. He has been good this year. He's got a new changeup, helps him against righties. 4.25 ERA, 1.27 whips, got a 4.51 expected ERA. Sharpie says metrics favor both pitchers today. It's the White Sox swing at everything, which will help Weathers and Burks, who pound the zone for some really bad zone contact. Robert Franklin on the first 5 under 4. And, of course, free bands, tune-up banger is the Chicago White Sox. I couldn't get past what Weathers has been doing on the road. Now, when you see the splits here, you don't see an extreme difference, but what he's been doing on the road of late has been very impressive. His last start was on the road at the Phillies, 5 2/3, 1 earned run, struck out 7 and walked 1. The start before that on the road, Friday, July 10th, 5-3 win at the Nationals, 5 1/3, 1 earned run, 6 Ks, doesn't walk a batter. And there's our guy, Robert Cherry. We were just talking about you, Robert, my man. As you can see, that GoFundMe's right there. Let's get some money today, Robert, my man. So the road start before that. So we've done the Phillies. We did the Nationals, 1 earned run over 5 1/3. The road start before that at the Tigers, 1 earned run over 6 innings. So there's 3 straight very good road starts. And then if you look at the start before that road start back on June 24th, well, it was versus these White Sox. And he shut them down. 6 1/3, 3 hits, 1 earned run, solo shot, 8 Ks, and 1 walk. Ryan Weathers should be backed. Now, if you back Ryan Weathers and the Yankees, you have to back their sticks, which is something that you don't want to necessarily do. Let's talk, especially against the ace of the White Sox staff, Sean Burke. 3.19 ERA, 1.12 whip, 3.45 expected ERA. His last start, 2 earned runs over 6 innings at home versus the Astros. It was nice, 10 strikeouts and 1 walk. It was very good. He's had a few of these very high strikeout, no walk games. He had 1 walk here. The start before that, 3-0 win at the Jays. He shut them down. 3 6 2/3, didn't allow a run. He has allowed 4 earned runs in his last 4 starts. He has allowed 8 earned runs in his last 7 starts. He's pitching at an extremely high level. Let's talk about the bullpens. White Sox bullpen 3.05 ERA, 1.18 whip. Yankees bullpen 2.60 ERA, 1.12 whip. And then when it comes to the sticks, these teams just aren't hitting. And the interesting thing is, if you were using your own, eye test, you would say, well, the White Sox versus lefties are, hit much harder than the Yankees versus righties without Judge. That's not the case. Yankees versus righties last 30 days, 222, 673 OPS. And the White Sox versus lefties, 231, 614 OPS. So we see Spooner on the first 3 under 2.5 here at minus 115. I made the same moves. Now, I didn't get the minus 115. I moved at 365, one of my early bets yesterday, on the first 3 under 2.5 at minus 125. I'm also on the first 5 under 4.5 at minus 130. I'm trying to stay away from Pinnacle on my early bets because you can't list pitchers, and I was very thankful that I didn't use Pinnacle for the Dodgers-Mariners action. But I kept going back to Burke and believing that there is still an advantage with Sean Burke over Ryan Weathers. I kept going back to that. We talked about it a lot on the Late Show, and then I moved on the I moved on the White Sox first 5. White Sox first 5, and I got that at first 5 at minus 118. First 5 minus 118. So let's go over all of the line history and the cash flow for this spot. So I've got 3 bets in this game. This was an opener at 8. It was juiced to the over at minus 120. Now it's a 7.5 juice to the under. That's great. Now I'm not on the full game under. I could have been. We talked about adding the full game under as well, but we then decided that because the game last night had gone to extras and they had gone deep into the pens, that we were just going to stick to the first 3 and the first 5. From the money line here, we have just 6 cents of movement towards the White Sox from minus 105 to minus 111. Let's take a look at the price difference, first 5 and full game here for the White Sox. And I hope that what we see is an expensive price. I also want to look at what this first 3 is at right now. So let's move over to both of those. First off, we're going to look at the price difference, first 5 and full game for the White Sox, and I hope it's plentiful. At the time, it was only about 8 cents difference last. No, I think it might have been a little more than 8 cents last night, but let's see what it is right now. Right now, we have the White Sox full game minus 112 and first 5 minus 120. So they're not saying that there's a huge advantage of first 5. The Yankees are plus 103 full game and plus 105 first 5. And then when we take a look at what this price is for this first 3 to the under, again, I got that first 3 at minus 125, first 3 under 2.5. Spooner got it at minus 115, and now it's minus 155. And that is exactly what we said we were hoping. Like we said, we were hoping would happen, that we'd wake up this morning and it'd be very expensive. So it's moved 30 cents since I bet it. 30 cents since I bet it. Let's also grab the cash flow for this spot. And what you see on the screen, this is going to be very helpful as we move forward. So what you see on the screen will be what it was 30 minutes ago. And then what you hear me saying is what has changed. So we have 60% of the tickets on the Yankees at, what do we have here? Hard for me to see. 4. So we have 60% of the tickets on the Yankees and only 29% of the cash on the Yankees. So people believing here, obviously, in Burke and the White Sox. 65% of tickets on the over and 61% of cash on the over. And I think a lot of that is predicated with the bullpen usage. Bullpen usage. We got our guy TJ in the house. He has moved on the White Sox first 5 minus 120. KC, Minnesota under 9.5, and the Tampa Bay Rays. That's a good looking first 3 games. A very, very good looking first 3 games on your card. So I feel very good about the situation. I honestly don't feel that good about the White Sox first 5. I really like those early unders better. So let's get to work here. Much love to you, Josh. Our thoughts are with you and your family, and leading your family through this. Our thoughts are with you and will be constantly. So love to you, Josh, and our thoughts and wishing strength for your wife. So let's roll on. Next spot on the board here, we have attacked this card. And it didn't stop here with Cubbies Cardinals. We're at Busch Stadium in St. Louis, Missouri, minus 7% runs, minus 15% homers, minus 3% doubles and triples, and plus 4% singles. We have Javier Assad. So we this was supposed to be Shota Imanaga. So we shouldn't get too caught up in the line movements from the very initial line, because that initial line, the Bet Online came out, was with the understanding that it was a Shota start. Now it's Javier Assad. And Javier Assad is a tricky cap. He was terrible in Iowa. He did not deserve to be called up. I mean, he was horrible in AAA. But they dealt with so many injuries that they had to bring him up. We have taint play of the day here in Cubbies Cardinals. And we have our guy Matty Ice on a massive, massive, massive run. He is on the Cubs money line at -102. He says these Cubs smash Palante. The hard hit percentage is very high, even for PCA, who's only 1 for 10 versus him, but 40% hard hit. Go, Cubs, go, says our guy, Matty Ice. Taint play today is right here in this spot. So I love the way Palante is pitching right now. I think it's easy to say that he is pitching better than we've ever seen him pitch. And I want to talk about Assad, though, first. When he came up after AAA getting annihilated in Iowa, he started shoving immediately. I mean, his first 2 starts, I couldn't really comprehend that they were so good. And, June 7th, when he came up, he was a primary. He didn't allow a run over 6 1/3 versus the Giants. And then he faced the Giants again 5 days later, and he went against Landon Rupp in both starts, and he shoved him both starts. He didn't allow a run in those 12 1/3 innings. And then he only allowed 2 earned runs in his first 18 innings. I mean, it was extremely impressive what he was doing. And then he came back to earth. And I feel like the Cubs have sort of been hiding him. They've been very uncomfortable giving him opportunities to pitch. In fact, in July, he is throwing 13 2/3 innings. Well, we're almost done July. I think that he is vulnerable. Now, TJ said he tailed Taint yesterday. No reason to stop. Absolutely no reason to stop. Let's talk about Andre Palante. 3.77 ERA, 1.21 whip, 3.63 expected ERA. And Thomas Maggio says he's 6-1 Assad. Not bad. No, but we don't care about win-loss record. I mean, that's archaic a stat. But you're right. He's more than not bad. 3.86 ERA, 1.12 whip. If he's so good, why is he only throwing 14 innings in July? If he's so good, why are the Cubs hiding him? But you're right. Statistically speaking, if we focus on that early stretch, he's been very good. Very good at home. But look, I digress. With the Cards and Palante, that last start at home versus the Reds was very good. And he has had his share of troubles against the Cubs. And he had a bad start Friday, May 29th. It was here at Busch, and he got hit hard by the Cubs. But as he turned his season around, it also helped him shut down the Cubs. And he shut them down over 5 2/3, didn't allow a run, 2 strikeouts, and 1 walk. When it comes to the bullpens, it's a wash. 4.34 ERA, 1.40 whip for the Cards over the last 30 days. Cubs 4.48 ERA, 1.43 whip. The biggest difference in this game comes down to the sticks. Now, I truly believe that there is an advantage on the mound with Palante over Javier Assad. And I trust that there's a reason why he's being hidden. I trust that. So I have moved. Now, the Cards versus righties is abysmal. 214, 593 OPS last 30 days compared to the Cubbies, 271, 798 OPS. I mean, it's a train wreck. But I believe in the early advantage here. And I believe in what Palante's doing and in his rhythm with a second home start. So I am not on the Cubs. I doubled down on the Cards early, and just early for me. I got the Cards first 3. It was very expensive at 365 at -125. I got them first 5 at -124. I want to cut the game down because I am afraid of the Cubs sticks. We've had a move to Palante. Now, it's a tricky move to decipher because I think basically at 4 p.m. we found out that it was not going to be Shota, and there was an immediate 9-cent move towards the Cubs. And then 11 minutes after that, there was another 9-cent move. So do we want to start at plus 104, which was when they first acknowledged that it wasn't Shota and that it was going to be Assad? Or do we want to start with the 11 minutes after that when it was moved again? That's up to you. Right now, we have a minus 108 on the Cardinals. And then when we get to the total here for this spot, we have an 8.5 and climbing. Now, again, this was a 7.5 with the Shota expectation. At 356, when that line moved with the announcement that it would be Assad, there was a 15-cent move to the over, and then it stayed there. It didn't move to 8 juice to the over until 8 p.m. We get to the cash flow here for this spot. Assad, Palante, we have 71% of the tickets on the Chicago Cubs, just 29% of the cash. We have 79% of the tickets on the under and 90% of the cash on the under. So, Thomas Maggio, that will be in our very first graphic. The wind will always be on our first graphic, but we can review it again. Busch Stadium is minus 7% runs. It is blowing in. It is hot, though. Minus 15% homers, minus 3% doubles and triples, and plus 4% singles. So it is run-suppressing weather, as you can see from the graphic. And I've moved on the cards early. Let's take a look at the price difference, see if I can gain any confidence. Obviously, being on the other side of taint is not something that's comfortable. We have the Cardinals here, minus 110 full game. First 5, minus 118. That is the exact same difference of Burke versus Weathers. So it's a lukewarm thing. Cubs are plus 102 full game, and then first 5, they're plus 103. So a very limited advantage. No worries, Thomas, my man. Very, very limited advantage. But I have moved. I'm with TV Jones here. I think TV Jones is focusing on the full game. I am not. Frosty says, I live in St. Louis, and it is not windy at all. We have action for me. Cardinals first 3 and first 5, and then we have the taint play of the day on the other side on the Chicago Cubs. Taint, big part of our program, has been for a long time since my days in Costa Rica. Taint 14-2 run, leading by example. And Matty I says Palante's career whip versus Cubs is 1.70. Not good at all. It isn't good at all. But he's been a bad pitcher, statistically speaking, his whole career until this year. And he started out poorly and got hit by the Cubs. He's pitching better than I've ever seen him pitch before. And his last start against the Cubs, he shut him out. Now he's only over 5 1/3. Different ways, to cut the cake. All that's important is that we eaten that cake. So, and Frosty, a St. Louis native, says, yeah, Palante sucks. Which, of course, Kahneman would say is a vividness bias. So let's roll. Let's roll here to our next spot on the board, but layers of fun here. Washington Nationals, Atlanta Braves. We're at Truist Park in Atlanta, Georgia. Let's get to work here. Let's get to work. This is a real fun game. Immediately, I wanted overs in this one. Truist Park, plus 4% runs, plus 8% homers, minus 8% doubles and triples, and plus 7% singles. I wanted overs immediately. And so when I had the White Sox first 3 and first 5 queued up and didn't pull the trigger, I also had the Nationals first 5 and full game overs queued up and didn't pull the trigger. I talked them out with you guys. Now, they were very expensive. That never stops me from betting things. I kind of, you guys know I kind of want things to be expensive. I kind of want to have a feeling as if the books don't want me to bet a certain side. We talked it out, and I did move on it. We also have Stacks play day number 2 on the over 9.5 full game. So this is the corner of Bag and Stacks Boulevard, a corner you want to rock with, corner you want to run. So let's talk about Jake Irvin. We've not seen Jake Irvin in a long time. What has been working for us here? Swab 54. Thank you for joining us, man. Thank you for the kind words. What we've noticed, what we've been banking on, is we have been fading every single pitcher who has a spectacular rehab starts. And it's working. And it's something that I've wanted to do for years. But I guess I had to notice and track that I was losing the bets, trusting pitchers who were spectacular in their rehab starts. Irvin was unbelievable in 3 rehab starts. He didn't allow a run over 11 and a third. He struck out 12 and he walked 1, and he only allowed 2 hits. He only allowed 2 hits. Not only that, but he only got built up to 63 pitches. I mean, that could be a rough 3 innings. He could be out of there. He will not be on the hill at the top of the 4th, which then will lead us to this Nats bullpen that is atrocious. We have a lot of backing here on the over. Robert Franklin on the over. Spooner on the over. As I said, Stacks number 2 on the over. So I'm attacking. Now, Irvin's numbers weren't very good this year. 5.23 ERA, 1.35 WHIP, 5.25 expected ERA. But he was on the IL for a arm ailment. And this is look, sometimes you invest in your tests, and this is another one. Let's talk about Grant Holmes, 6-4, 3.79 ERA, 1.36 WHIP, 4.70 expected ERA. He has had his struggles this year. Of course, he had the injuries at the end of last year. They weren't sure if he was going to do Tommy John surgery. He had a partial UCL and flexor tendon tear. He decided not to. So you have to use kid gloves when you handle him. We have him. He can pitch well. He's a good pitcher. But he's very emotional. He gets, he really wants to succeed so badly. He asked for a mental and physical reset after a May 1st start. And then they pulled him after 3 starts between June 9th and June 22nd. They pulled him from the starting rotation. In those 3 starts, he never went more than 4 2/3, 10 strikeouts, 8 walks, 2.03 WHIP, 6.10 ERA. And of course, he got angry. He was a primary in his next start, and he shoved. Then he got to start again the following week, and he pitched very well for back-to-back starts. I think he can give you an okay start. But what is an okay start against the Nats first righties? 3 earned runs over 5 innings. I mean, if he allows 3 earned runs over 5 innings, it's going to be a sweat. But I think we get to the over. Let's talk about these bullpens, because when you start talking about the bullpens and the sticks, you just want overs, and you realize why it was such a high total to begin with. Braves bullpen 5.43 ERA, 1.40 WHIP over the last 30 days. Nats bullpen 4.83 ERA, 1.51 WHIP. Both bullpens, if you look at the rolling ERA, are moving in the wrong direction. Then we have the sticks. These teams are annihilating righties. Nats versus righties, 295, 911 OPS. Braves versus righties, 265, 824 OPS. 462 for life, says Irvin on a pitch count and a terrible bullpen. Can only lean Atlanta and the over. Sharpie says, not that I'm an Irvin guy, yet if he threw 63 last minor league start, they're going to look for 75 or 80 today on his way to building up. Turnbuckle Tommy says, Nats with 33 plate appearances versus Holmes with a 241 average, but a 958 OPS. So they've barreled here. Carlos joining us. Thank you for joining us, Carlos. Let's get into the line history here for this one. So I could have got the over 9.5 plus 100 at Penny. That was what was queued. That was before our nightly bag show last night. And I just wanted to talk it out, and now we have 10s on the board, a 10 at Heritage, which is a sharp book, so I love seeing that. Now that is juiced to the under. The 9.5 over at Bet Online is now minus 117 to the over. So clearly there is no concern on this, being too high of a total to attack. And then on the money line here, we have 1 cent of movement towards the Braves from minus 145 to minus 146. And when we get to the cash flow, for this spot, we have 83% of the tickets on the Braves, but just 47% of the cash. Here is a angle that should appeal to us. Not just 61% of tickets are on the over, but 92% of the cash is on the over, and the books are moving accordingly. Feels good. Let's roll on. A lot of cappers here, Justin, are using prediction markets as well as they are sweeping across the nation. I am not at this point, but let's roll on. Next spot on the board for us. So that's an over. First 5 over 5.5 and full game over 9.5 for me in that Nats Braves game. And I got the over 5.5 minus 104 and the over 9.5 at minus 110. So it had moved 10 cents by the time I moved on it. Let's move on to our next game on the board. Marlins Mets. Look, I can't, and I'm going to try, we don't have time for me to just talk about how much fun it was to watch Christian Scott against Chris Sale. But I mean, if you like pitching, if you like baseball, if you love baseball, I mean, it was spectacular. Getting to watch 37-year-old Chris Sale, only his second start in Citi Field. Getting to watch Christian Scott, who now has gone 25 career starts without allowing 3 or more earned runs. God, it was just watching Christian Scott step up. Also, not being on the Braves first 5 -1/2 because the first 5 -1/2 was only -102, which implied that Christian Scott was going to shove, and then cashing on the first 3 under and the first 5 under, with no sweat. It was just as fun as capping and scorecasting baseball gets. Citi Field in Queens, New York, -10% runs, -3% homers, -19% doubles and triples, and -6% singles. Yuri Perez is a monster. He's an absolute monster. He strained his right gracilis muscle during a start May 27th. Supposed to be 8 weeks on the shelf. He came back in 4.5. And, right when he came back, way early from his injury, the Marlins went on a massive run. And the reason why this happens is everybody else sees, look, we're all in. We are all in. What did Perez do when he came off the IL with a non-arm related ailment? He was spectacular. He has been spectacular. In 6 starts, he's allowed more than 1 earned run twice, where he allowed 2 earned runs on July 11th. That was a quality start at home versus Guardians, and 3 earned runs in his last start, July 25th, a quality start at home versus the Padres. We have Robert Franklin on the Marlins, Frosty on the Marlins. I think there's going to be another spectacular pitching performance at Citi Field today. We got TC's play of the day, and watch what TC does with these plus money spots. Very, very strong. Copy and pasting TC's action. Let's get to Nolan McLean. Nolan McLean had a hiccup, and it happens to every pitcher in Major League Baseball. It's just such a marathon in a 162-game season, pitching every 5th game. It's such a marathon. And, regression waits for no man. And it didn't wait for Nolan McLean. Nolan McLean got off to this spectacular start, and then he started getting touched up. 3.32 ERA, 1.11 whip, 3.50 expected ERA. He's been great this year. And he was great in the 48 innings we got to see him last year when he first came up. This guy's a phenom. And as I said, he struggled a bit. He struggled a bit. And it was all in late May. He righted the ship at the end of May and beginning of June. And he's had 1 bad start since then. June 24th at home versus Cubs. His last 5 starts, he's allowed 4 earned runs. He has consecutive home starts now. His last home start was versus the Dodgers, 2 earned runs over 6 innings, 7 strikeouts, and 2 walks. Those were the first runs he'd allowed since July 5th, as the 2 starts before the All-Star break and after the All-Star break, he didn't allow a run over 12 innings. So when we get to the bullpens, they're a problem. They're a problem. The Mets bullpen has looked a little better of late, but still last 30 days, they've been really bad. 6.10 ERA, 1.57 whip. The Marlins bullpen, 6.15 ERA, 1.45 whip. And then when it comes to the sticks, that's sort of a problem too, because the Marlins are hitting. And we've all seen that. The Marlins, 282, 849 OPS. Mets, 251, 752 OPS. Those are the last 30 days. As you can see, the Mets are tailing off. And so are the Marlins slightly. So I moved on unders here. I moved on the first 3 under 2 at -104. It was very expensive. The first 3 under 2.5 was -160 at the time. We'll take a look at what it is now. And then I got the first 5 under 4 at -120 at Pinnacle. I haven't looked, but I assumed that was a great line, and I was going to beat it badly. So we'll take a look at what it is right now. So let's take a look at the line history for our next spot this spot on the board here, Mets Marlins. We've had no movement to McLean, -125 opener, -125 now. When we get to the total, this total opened up at 7, -115 to the over. The big thing that I was stressing when I moved on the first 3 under and the first 5 under, and then again, just because I stress something doesn't mean it comes to fruition, but this is the first 7 opener that we have seen that hasn't skyrocketed to the over. I mean, in how long? In at least a month. Every 7 that we see is skyrocketing to the over. Did we get any games that open up at 7 yesterday? Yes. Orioles, Tigers. That ended up at a flat 7.5. This has not moved off that over 7 to minus 115. Of course, 19 runs were scored now. Every single 7 is skyrocketing to the over, except for this one. Let's take a look at the price difference. First 5 in full game here at Pinnacle for the Mets. They're minus 123 full game. First 5 minus 125. They're saying that there's slight advantage with the Marlins, who are plus 114 full game, plus 109 first 5. And then that first 5 that I got under 4 at minus 120 is now minus 132. So that has moved 12 cents over at Pinnacle. When we get to the cash flow for this Perez McLean start, 69% of the tickets are on the Mets and 85% of the cash. 74% of tickets are on the over and 91% of cash is on the over, because everybody's been hammering these over 7s and cashing on them, and the books aren't moving it a cent. Not a cent at a 7. Now, Sharpie says, why is Yuri Perez ERA earned runs at 2.5? Says, yes, the hella juice to the under, but it should be a minus 1.5, minus 130 to the over. Well, that's interesting and somewhat nerve-wracking. I'd like to see what Pinnacle has for Yuri Perez's earned runs here. And they don't have it. That makes me a little nervous. His outs are at 17.5, though, juiced to the over, which is a good sign. Strikeouts 5.5, heavily juiced to the over. Yeah, that makes me a little nervous, Sharpie. Makes me a little nervous, but I've doubled down here, and I can't wait to watch it. Hopefully they follow Christian Scott and Chris Sales, but also Austin Smith-Shawver and Sean Manaea in game 1 of the double dip looked very good. And Sharpie says Perez last 10 games has allowed 2 earned runs or less in 6 of them. So let's roll on. Let's roll on. Next spot on the board here, Pittsburgh Pirates, Cincinnati Reds. We're at Great American Ballpark in Cincinnati, Ohio. Let's see if RotoWire can give us a confirmation as Yohan Ramirez as the opener and then Hunter Barco as the primary. Yes, they have given us that. So this is a fun spot. This is a very fun spot here. So I am 2-0 on my I Have a Sickness plays of the day. And of course, if you're betting Rhett Lauder in any shape or form, you could say this is the I Have a Sickness play of the day. The play of the day yesterday for the I Have a Sickness play of the day was the, oh, maybe it pushed. It was the Rockies' first 3. No, it was Angels. It was Grayson Rodriguez, Angels' first 3. Angels' first 3 cashed. And then the day prior was the Rockies plus the first 3 plus a half with Michael Lorenzen. So we're 2-0 in the I Have a Sickness play day. The I Have a Sickness play day is the Cincinnati Reds today. We laughed and joked about how, anytime I want to back Rhett Lauder, a little hand should come out and slap me in the face. And then I backed him and he pitched great and I lost the bet. And sometimes that happens. It's the Rosie Perez school of gambling. He pitched great. 5 innings. He allowed 2 earned runs. Unfortunately, those 2 earned runs came in the bottom of the 5th, and they lost 2-1. They won the game 4-2. He put his team in a position to win the game. Warbucks is on the Reds' money line and the over 9.5. I'm on the Reds' money line and the under 9.5. Great American Ballpark in Cincinnati, Ohio. We know that is a, very, very offensive situation. And it's no different today. Plus 11% runs, plus 20% homers, plus 2% doubles and triples, and minus 2% singles. Yohan Ramirez, 6-3, 3.21 ERA, 1.38 whips, got a 3.80 expected ERA. He's the opener. And then it leads to Hunter Barco, who's been in the minors since April 28th. Second round pick in the 2022 draft. He has got a little bit of a Dobnak in him where, he doesn't allow home runs. He doesn't get barreled too often. Now, in the majors, he's been barreled, 3 home runs and 11 2/3. He's got that similar K to walk ratio of Dobnak, who threw another beauty. We have an over 9 for Justin McKelvey here in this one. So that's a nice number to get. You definitely beat that move. So I have a bias, and that's that any time that I fade bad bullpens on a bullpen day, they get me. Now, I don't know if this is considered a full bullpen day because Hunter Barco is going to go, 4 innings or so. He's a starter at AAA Indianapolis. 4.87 ERA, 1.58 whip down there, allowed 4 home runs over 44 1/3. So let's talk about Rhett Lauder. He's cost me a lot of money. Why am I going back to the well? I believe in Rhett Lauder. The last time I thought that Rhett Lauder had turned the corner, I got hurt. It was he had two very good starts at the Rays and at home versus Tigers, and then he got destroyed by the Pirates. They put him on the IL on May 13th, right shoulder discomfort. He was on the IL till June 7th, and he came out and shoved a couple of really nice starts, and then he went to New York, and I took him for 3+ a half, and he got hit 4 runs over 5 1/3. And TV Jones says this is a good spot as any for Lauder to back up his great outing last time. Pirates offense is broken. They're not hitting like pre-All-Star break. Well, I love reading that. So, look, they pulled him from the starting rotation. He was in the bullpen from basically the start of July until July 18th. And I believe in the 7th overall pick out of Wake Forest. Am I a year early? Is this the Emerson Hancock situation that I had to deal with last year? Possibly. Let's talk about the bullpens. Reds bullpen is being very good, and it's better than the Pirates bullpen. 3.57 ERA, 1.20 whip over the last 30 days. And look what they've done just recently. I mean, they're pitching at an extremely high level. The Pirates bullpen, 4.58 ERA, 1.48 whip over the last 30 days. Just not a bullpen I trust. Then let's talk about the sticks. We have the Pirates numbers dropping against righties. Now, they have still really nice numbers over the last 30 days, 266, 784 OPS. And the Reds are not hitting righties, but they're also probably going to see some lefties who they are attacking here. So I'm in. Londo on the other side. So he's on the Pirates money line in the first 5, over 5.5 for me. The Reds are the eye of the sickness. Play of the day, 2-0 on them. Let's go into the line history here for this spot. We have a total at 9.5. We've had a 10-cent move towards the under. I like that. Nothing wrong with that. That 10-cent move happened 2 hours after it became available, and it's not moving. So I like that. On the money line here, we've had a 2-cent move towards the Pirates, so nothing that doing there. We go to the cash flow again. The graphics you're going to see was the cash flow 1 hour ago. I think this is very helpful that we see the difference in 1 hour, and it's not much of a difference. The 66% of the tickets now and 87% of the cash is on the Pittsburgh Pirates. I really think this is helpful, and it's going to be more helpful the later we get into the show. And then we have big bets placed on the over. 44% of the tickets are on the over, but 93% of the cash. 9.3 of every $10 has come in on the over, and this line has moved 10 cents to the under. So I like everything in the marketplace. There's nothing I don't like here, and I have moved on it accordingly. So I got the Reds on the money line at plus 101. That's where it is right now. I got the Pittsburgh Cincinnati under 9.5 at minus 110. That is also where it is right now. Let's move on to our next spot on the board, the Boston Red Sox. And I don't want to talk about what's gone on the last 2 days because I have not moved on these Red Sox A's games. And I've had, over the last 2 days, 5 different bets listed that I didn't move on and would have gone 5-0 on them. That sort of thing happens. I'm not going to beat myself up over it, but it is certainly frustrating. Boston Red Sox 55 51, 30 and 22 on the road. Athletics 45 and 62, 21 and 31 at home. We're at Sutter Health Park in Sacramento, California. Very offensive weather. Plus 25% runs, plus 31% homers, plus 19% doubles and triples, and plus 5% singles. We have Sonny Gray on the hill. A 12-2, 2.78 ERA, 1.16 whips. Got a 5.57 expected ERA. We saw him shove in the thin air of Colorado. He was pitching at an extremely high level before getting lit up at home versus the Blue Jays on Saturday. Not entirely sure why or how that happened. 5 earned runs, 5 innings, 6-0 loss at home versus the Jays. He had allowed 4 earned runs in his previous 5 starts. So it was very strange that he got lit up the way he did. It is a bullpen day for the A's. I don't believe they have a primary. They don't. Mason Barnett is the starter here. And Mason Barnett hasn't started the game all year. We'll see if he does start. But hasn't started a game all year. 14 appearances, 4.74 ERA, 1.38 WHIP through 24 and 2/3, 23 Ks, 13 walks, 5 homers. He has 2 saves. His expected ERA is right where his ERA is. It's a bullpen day against the tired trash bullpen. Again, historically, this hasn't been working for me, but I couldn't help myself. A's bullpen, 7.62 ERA, 1.79 WHIP over the last 30 days. Red Sox bullpen, 2.45 ERA, 1.05 WHIP. DC Capper also on the other side of me, so we have a ton of people on the other side of my Reds in under action, which is I kind of like. I mean, I'd rather we all cash, but I don't mind being on an island in these spots. I mean, it is the I have a sickness play of the day. And then when we get to the sticks, look, the Red Sox hit. The Red Sox hit, but they don't hit righties. We imagine that we're going to see both lefties and righties. Righties, 242, 691 OPS last 30. Against lefties, 258, 45. The A's aren't hitting anything. Not righties, not lefties. They're not hitting anything here. So TB Jones and Boston forgot how to hit when they showed up at arguably the most offensively driven ballpark. Gray bounces back for 7 innings tonight. So let's get into the line history here for the Red Sox A's. I moved on the Red Sox -1. I moved before Pinnacle and BetOnline came out, and I figured it was going to cost me money, but I was exhausted. I just thought, I was like 1:45 in the morning, 2 where I'm like waiting for them to drop the lines, and they didn't. And I was like, you know what? I just moved on the -1 at Bet365, figuring it would cost me. Let's see how much it has cost me. Red Sox are -167 here, and they're -1 is -139. So I don't know what it was, when I woke up this morning a few hours ago, but it's fine. I got the -1 at -132 on the Boston Red Sox. They've moved 10 cents at BetOnline from -165 to -175. And then from a total side of things here, we have where is it? We have no movement, just sitting here at the 10, just sitting here doing nothing. Toby Lane, I absolutely love the Aces. Just love them tonight. Got them on the spread and the double result. Love them. But we are against each other on your play today on the Lions, and we can go into that in a second. So let's take a look at the cash flow for this spot here. We have, let's go here. We have 95% of the tickets now, 90% of the cash on the Boston Red Sox. So we want this line to move. Now, Circa is the most expensive. We talk about, and Circa's at -180, so a South Point. We talk about our concern when Circa or Pinnacle are the cheapest. Well, here, Circa is the most expensive on the Red Sox, so I like seeing that. 84% of tickets on the under, but 58% of cash on the over. That's very interesting. So that has not changed in the last hour either. Okay, so that is our Red Sox spot. I'm on the Red Sox -1. Let's move on to the next spot on the board. This is the only game at this point where I have interest in still moving on. 9:40 p.m. Eastern, San Francisco Giants 45 and 62, 20 and 35 on the road. At the San Diego Padres 54 and 53, 28 and 24 at home. And we have a Rays Red Sox money line parlay at +149 for TJ. A Rube Boy going back to the well on the under 10.5, and Londo on the A's and the over for him. Here we have Ray versus JP Sears. What an interesting spot. Petco Park in San Diego, California. -6% runs, -1% homers, -10% doubles and triples, and -5% singles. We have Robbie Ray on the hill. Dougie Wise has moved on the Giants at +136. I was concerned that why it was so cheap, but I had thought heavily about moving on it last night, and I still have interest in it. Robbie Ray, 9 and 6, 3.16 ERA, 1.31 WHIPs, got a 4.52 expected ERA. Robbie Ray is pitching very well now. He had an ugly year up until June 10th. I mean, he was not pitching well. His numbers were all elevated. And then he turned it around, and he's been really good. He had 3 straight scoreless starts, and 2 of those starts he covered 8 full 8 innings, pitching at a very high level. And he's carried it on. Now, it's not been as dominant. That first start after the break, he didn't look very good. Now, well, he looked fine. There's some bubbling defense behind him. It was only 1 earned run, but he only made it through 4 innings. His last start was beautiful at home versus the Angels. Now we look at the graphics and you can see that he's being dominant at home. Not quite so dominant on the road, but this is a run-suppressing venue with the San Diego Marine Layer. Then we have J.P. Sears on the other side. J.P. Sears in AAA was so bad. I mean, he was almost allowing a run an inning. His whip was terrible. maybe he's just a disgruntled 30-year-old hanging around a bunch of kids. I don't know the answer for why he was so bad, but he has changed that here in the show. He now has had 6 appearances. He's been really good. He had the one bad appearance that was at the Cubs in very offensive weather. He allowed 3 home runs. He's only allowed 5 home runs this year. So since allowing the 3 home runs, he allowed 4 home runs in his first 2 starts, and then he stopped allowing them. So if we just look at what he's done in June, he's thrown 17 and 2/3. He's only allowed 11 hits, only 4 earned runs, only allowed the 1 jack. So he's pitching pretty well here, JP Sears. Let's take a look at the bullpens. These bullpens aren't to be trusted. The Padres bullpen, 5.17 ERA, 1.41 WHIP. I mean, is Mason Miller even going to be used right now if he's such a huge commodity at the deadline? Giants bullpen, 4.59 ERA, 1.30 WHIP. When it comes to the sticks, the Padres are hitting lefties, but not with a ton of power over the last 30 days. I mean, their trajectory has improved. The Giants are sticks that I just don't trust, regardless of whether it's righties or lefties that they're facing. They just don't have power, and I don't trust them, whatsoever. Now, lefties, they hit much harder than righties, but so that is a valid part of this game. Let's take a look at the line history here for Giants Padres. First off, the total, it's not moved. 8.5 minus 117 to the under is now an 8.5 minus 120 to the under. I see a couple books that are not reputable that have moved it to 8. And then on the money line here, we have a 20-cent move to the Padres from minus 130 to minus 150. That's a big move. That's a big move. I think it should probably be supported. The fact that it'd be moving like that towards Series when Ray's on the mound. 73% of the tickets are on the Padres and 87% of the cash. That's a lot of money. But Circa has a minus 157 on the Padres and plus 141 on the Giants. Why would they be offering up the Giants at such a beautiful price? 73% of tickets on the under and 87% of cash on the under. Gio Bed in the house. Robert Franklin on the Giants money line. So, nothing has changed here for me. I don't really feel that comfortable. At this point, the only move I could make would be the Padres. If they're telling us that Sears is going to shove, does that mean that Robbie Ray is vulnerable? Let's take a look at this first 3 under, and let's take a look at the price difference here. First 5 in full game. We have the Giants at plus 135 right now at penny full game. First 5 plus 121. The first 5 total is a 4.5, slightly juiced to the over. Even that surprises me here. Spooner says Brewers punted the game and gave the Giants a free win yesterday. Padres pen is taxed. I really want to move on the Giants. DC Capper wanted to move on the under 8.5. The pens do concern me, but the starters don't. So should that take me? And also, I would think that first 5 under 4.5 would be juiced to the under at penny. This is an 8.5 juice to the under. So it should just be a 2.5 at minus 120. Should just be minus 120 each way. Let's see what it is here at 365. The first 3 under 2.5 is, minus 120 each way. Maybe I just stay off the game. My whole plan all along was to back Ray, so I could move on the first 3 under 2.5. That's becoming the only thing that really interests me at this point, or moving on the Padres minus 1 and trusting the books here that are moving heavily. Now the Padres are being heavily bet. Okay, obviously this game is going to need more time for me. It's going to need more time, and I'm not going to sit here and hem and haw on our morning show. Let's move on to the final spot on the board, 10:10 p.m. Eastern. Seattle Mariners, Los Angeles Dodgers, Dodger Stadium, Los Angeles, California. We are back with Bet Online, and we have poker tournaments coming up, and we're really excited about it. One thing about Bet Online that I really like is, first off, you can use it anywhere. Now, when you do use it in multiple cities, there are some issues cashing out. Now, you can clear all of them up. I've had the issues cashing out at times, because I use it heavily in San Antonio over pub, and then I won't use it too often. And then they're like, are 2 people using it? But they handle that fine. But the thing about Bet Online is that you can list pitchers. Thank God you can list pitchers, man. So here, I was very fortunate that I had the pitchers listed. The more I sat with it, Bryce Miller, there might be something wrong with Bryce Miller. He might be dealing with arm fatigue. His velocity might be down. But the fact that Wu started here, I didn't care that I'd beaten the market move on the first 3 under 3 and the full game under 9. Those bets were voided, and I was very thankful. And I didn't bet them again because we know Ryan Wu, he's the most predictable pitcher in Major League Baseball. Now, we heard some really interesting stuff from Sharpie last night on the show saying that this is zone contact wise the right pitcher the right team for Wu to go up against. Now, the Dodgers aren't hitting really right now, but the predictability of Brian Wu has been absolutely spectacular. Plus 2% runs, plus 18% homers, plus 1% doubles and triples. It's more offensive than we ever see at Chavez Ravine because it's hot right now. It's hot right now. It's hot, and we know if you're you run in LA that it gets cold at night, but not tonight. It's a hot night. So we have these extreme splits with Wu, ridiculous extreme splits. The most predictable pitcher in Major League Baseball. I mean, look at the home and road splits. I mean, have you ever seen anything so extreme before? And he just keeps cashing for us. It's in his head. It is clearly in his head. Let's talk about Roki Sasaki, 4-5, 4.71 ERA, 1.29 WHIP's got a 4.36 expected ERA. He is a bet-on pitcher right now. I truly believe from this point on to the rest of the year, we're going to get value. Now, will his arm deal with some fatigue? I think that 9 days off in between the start before the All-Star break and after the All-Star break helped because in these 2 starts post-All-Star break, and now you only have 4 starts in July, but these 2 starts post All-Star break when he got to rest his arm, he's allowed 1 earned run over 12 2/3. In WY says Wu will get blasted. I don't know if Wu will get blasted, but it's the gift that keeps giving. I didn't put more than a unit. I'm on the Dodgers' first 5 here. When it comes to the bullpen, I know we haven't seen it in this series really, but the Mariners bullpen is much better than the Dodgers bullpen at this point. And if you look at that rolling ERA, this Dodgers bullpen is falling apart. Of course, they're going to be buyers at the trade deadline as always and shore it up. But 4.72 ERA, 1.34 WHIP. Mariners bullpen, 2.88 ERA, 1.03 WHIP over the last 30 days. DC Capper on the Dodgers and the over 8.5 here. The Sticks, neither team has a 700 OPS over the last 30 days versus righties. I mean, it's amazing. The Dodgers now have a 699 OPS versus righties over a 30-day period. I've not seen them have an OPS under 700 against any righties or lefties since maybe 3 or 4 years ago. That year, I think it was in 2022 when they couldn't hit lefties. Other than that, they've just been destroying. So this is very, very, very strange. And Rob Free says the Aces line racing towards Liberty. Interesting. Looking forward to discuss that. We're almost there. So here we go. Let's get into the line history here. I moved on the Dodgers first 5 here. I got the Dodgers first 5 minus a half at minus 103. We have a move towards the Mariners from plus 145 to plus 136. We've talked about, it appears that these advanced models don't really weight whether a pitcher is struggling horribly on the road and shoving it home properly. Now, that might not be a fair statement to say, but it feels that way. We've seen this move from minus 160 to minus 150. It did go down to minus 145. So we've seen a move towards the Mariners full game. When we get to the total here, we have a move towards the under, but it looks like it's coming back to a 9. The 8.5 is heavily juiced, minus 123. It's between minus 120 and minus 125, depending on where you shop. When we look at the price difference here at Pinnacle, first 5 and full game, the Dodgers, so minus 148 full game, and first 5 they're minus 143. The Mariners full game are plus 136, and first 5 they're plus 124. Lychee says, shouldn't the Dodgers be bigger favorites? Statistically speaking here, they have, if you look at a full season profile, they have the better pitcher on the mound. They have the better bullpen. If we look at what's gone on with the Sticks, neither team is hitting righties. So, no, I think it's a pretty fair line, a line that I'm comfortable with. And Sasaki's had a lot of trouble this year. So, I'm on the Dodgers first 5 minus a half. What is that Dodgers first 5 minus a half? Minus 103 right now. So, no difference from where I moved on it. Okay, so that is MLB for Thursday, July 30th. Let's review the action. Yankees, White Sox, first 3 under 2.5, minus 125. Yankees, White Sox, first 5 under 4.5, minus 130. Cardinals, first 3, minus 125. First 5, minus 124. Yankees, Mets, first 3 under 2 at minus 104. First 5 under 4 at minus 120. Got a lot of VIG here on this card. Rays, money line, minus 134. White Sox, first 5, minus 118. Washington, Atlanta, first 5 over 5.5 at minus 104. Washington, Atlanta, full game over 9.5 at minus 110. Reds, money line at plus 101. Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, under 9.5, minus 110. Red Sox, minus 1 at minus 132. Dodgers, first 5, minus a half at minus 103. And then the bet that I added this morning, Kansas City, Minnesota, first 3 under 3 at minus 123. When I look over the rest of the action, and we're less than an hour away from afternoon baseball, when I look at the rest of the action, there's nothing that would be added here except for that Padres Giants game, and being a late game, I can really sit back and wait here. And Mark Sasowski said, I missed the Washington Atlanta cap, but he's thinking the market is respecting Irvin with the first 5 being 20 cents more expensive. Yeah, I think that's fair. A 40 kid like in Toronto plus 11.5. Let's get into the WNBA. We went 2-0 yesterday. Very easy. Nasty Nate says the best early bet. Yes. What I would do, Nasty Nate, is I would take the Tampa Bay Rays money line and parlay it with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers double result. I think that's the best way of handling the early game. The best way. So yes, Rays. I do like that first 3 under 3 in the Royals Twins, not as much as the Rays Bombers to me. The free bands play days, the White Sox, or Dougie Wise likes the White Sox full game, but I think that's the best way to play it, is take the Rays. Look, I've got 7 units on the football game. I don't need to add, but that sounds extremely appealing to me. Okay, so let's get into the WNBA. Look, we were fortunate, obviously, to cash with the Dream last night on the money line. But the Mercury, we also got plus 12.5 live. We were just doing what we've been succeeding with all year long, and that's just basically fading the public with a number that doesn't make sense. So let's roll. We started 8 p.m. Eastern. Minnesota Lynx 23-6, 12-2 on the road at the Toronto Tempo, 10-17, 6-10 at home at Scotiabank Arena in Toronto, Ontario. Let's get into the plan of attack, the line history, and the cash flow here. First off, we'll talk about the line history for Lynx Tempo. This opened up minus 11.5. It is now a minus 12, so a half-point move towards the Lynx. We're on an 8-game winning streak, but not covering any of these games. Total-wise, it's opened up at 184.5 and is now a 186.5. Cash flow-wise here, we have the 82% of the tickets and 77% of the cash on Toronto. Honestly, that makes Minnesota appealing, but I'm not going to try and catch a falling knife with a team that's not covering any of these big spreads. 61% of tickets on the over and 78% cash on the over. And AOD says Tempo Rabenga here. And 40 Kid talking about, his interest in Toronto plus 11.5. I'll tell you this here. These teams just met in the 193 win for the Lynx in Minnesota. And that will tell you a bunch of different things. And first off, it will tell you that the Lynx will take this game seriously because that was a very tight matchup. Another hugely important thing for me was that the Lynx went 14 of 25 from 3. They hit 56% of their threes and still only beat the Tempo by 3 possessions. I do not expect them to come up to Coca-Cola Arena and hit 56% from 3, although we have seen these WNBA teams hitting their threes. Justin McKelvey is a Lynx over 187.5 in his pocket. So in that game here, yes, I did GeoBed. I'll put it in the chat if somebody else can't right now. But Olivia Miles went for 24 points, 9-17, hit 4 threes, 8 assists, 6 rebounds. Kayla McBride went for 18. Nafisa getting more comfortable went for 15. Natasha Howard went for 13. For Toronto, they've shown that they have more depth than we had expected. And Marina Mabry obviously leading the charge, 25, 8, and 6. But they've lost 4 straight and 8 of 9. This is, thank you. That's what AOD is saying. Yeah, Rays and Blue Bombers double result, I think, is the best, the most advantageous way of playing the early game. So here we go. Warbuck says he'll be on the Lynx minus 12.5 for 3 units as Toronto can't cover at home. I get that. Robert Cherry's going to be on the Lynx money line, the over 187.5 with Olivia Miles. What is the number for PRA? Because it's a W5 there, PRA. But Robert Cherry being destroying here. And Sharpie also adding lineups pending. This will be a 2-unit bet for Roki over 5.5 Ks here. A 2-unit bet for Sharpie on Roki Sasaki over 2.5 Ks. So I'm not betting on this game. I'm staying off of it. Let's move on to our next spot on the board here. 8 p.m. Eastern. With the Connecticut Sun 7-21, 3-11 on the road. Chicago Sky 9-18, 5-7 at home. Wintrust Arena in Chicago, Illinois. Well, I screwed this one up. This total opened up at 171.5, now 176.5. And the spread is a 4.5. And some books are at 5s. You know, I there was a pretty legit move towards the Connecticut Sun yesterday. And I think it's hugely advantageous that they played a game to start the second half of the season. And a tough one, 92-84 at the Mystics. They played well. Anissa Morrow went for 21. They're so different when she's out there. But they're also so different when Brittany Griner is not out there. They are 1-11 without Brittany Griner. 6-10 with Brittany Griner. She's not going to play. She's ruled out against, the Sky due to left knee injury. So the Sky opened up their season here, and I think that is a problem. I think that's going to hurt them, but I would love to be telling you this and say, look, I got the 4.5 or I got the 5. I got a plus 3.5 minus 105, which makes me look like a schmuck. That makes me uncomfortable. But I do believe that this is helpful for the Connecticut Sun. The market cash flow wise doesn't really help me. 54% of the tickets are on the Connecticut Sun and 46% of the cash. On the other hand, 79% of tickets are on the over and 91% of the cash. I am on the Connecticut Sun here. Oh, 25. Okay, thank you, Robert. Jerry Davis in the house played the under 176 here. So let's roll on to our final spot on the board. And we've heard that there's a big line move. New York Liberty, Las Vegas Aces, Michelob Ultra Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada. Let's take a look at what this line move is. Oh, I don't see it. Oh, I guess because it got up to 5.5. Now it's a 5. So we heard 50 cents on the money line. 50 cents on the money line. So this, I can see that. So this went from minus 210 up to minus 225. Now it's back at minus 200 here. So I'm not concerned. Oh, Rob Free said it came back. Okay. I'm not concerned about that at this point here. 67% of the tickets, 76% of the cash is on the Liberty. I love that. 58% tickets on the over and 54% cash on the over. He said it came back instantly. That makes me feel great. So here, this is smash and grab. Now, I had an eye appointment yesterday, my last one, so I won't see them now for a year for my LASIK. And I thought I'd bet the Aces minus 3.5 and minus 105. This opened up even lower than that at some books. And I came home after the eye appointment, and I was sitting there, adding the prep and doing the prep. And I was like, oh, my God, I did not bet it. And I just started sweating. Now, I got the 4.5 at minus 110, and I hope that doesn't hurt me. And I don't think it will. I think this is just such a phenomenal betting opportunity here on the Aces. Justin McKelvey on the over 181.5. Aces began the second half of the season with a very impressive 98-83 win at home over the Portland Fire. So that means that, they're in the right direction. But the most important thing is they're going to exact their revenge. They're going to get the chance to revenge that Commissioner's Cup loss here. I think that they beat the Liberty by double digits. The Liberty are playing bad basketball right now. They have won 3 straight, but, barely squeaking by weak opposition. They beat the Sparks in LA 113-109. The Sparks didn't have Kelsey Plum. They're clearly missing Satu Sabali and Leonie Fibic. This is, this is just very, very easy. Now, nothing's easy. I shouldn't say that. Nothing's easy in this, but I just think the Aces beat the Liberty by double digits. So I added the double result this morning. Added the double result at minus 130 here. And I'm very comfortable with it. We have Robert Cherry's action there in the chat. Please take a look at it. Robert Cherry crushing the WNBA. And I'm pumped up. I think if, in fact, the Liberty are in control early, that will just give us the opportunity to make a live bet. And if you were with us on the nightly bag last night, you moved on to Mercury plus 12.5, and they won outright. Justin McKelvey says Liberty has ownership rights over the Aces. I'm excited. I think that they fight back here. Fight back. Okay, so let's roll on to the Canadian Football League. In review, 2 bets for me in the WNBA. I screwed up with the Connecticut Sun. I got the Sun plus 3.5 minus 105. I got the Aces minus 4.5 and minus 110. And I got Aces double result at minus 130. And again, if the Liberty get off to a strong start, we live bet the Aces. Let's talk about the Canadian Football League. We have one game on the CFL, and it's the biggest bet I've made on a regular season CFL game in 10 plus years. I'm very, very, very excited about it. Now, we begun, and I'm not going to give the same breakdown I gave on the nightly bag, which was long. We opened today's show with our friend Toby Lane doing the opposite here. So the opposite was Toby Lane saying this. It's an upset week in the CFL. He says, I have the Lions money line tonight. This is from Toby Lane. It's his play today. He says, I think Salter is fitting the CFL perfectly. And he says, especially for one game on the road against a team who is somehow in a bad mood right now in Winnipeg. Oliveira in the media, bye week coming up also. Really a must-win game for the Lions if they want to have a chance to get into the playoff once Rourke will be back. And that is his. And then he says, that's my own opinion. And Toby Lane is great. Now, I had to fight back off people who believed in Chase Bryce last week. They believed in Chase Bryce getting a full week of practice. And, I made 4 units off of that. And I do not believe. I have been capping CFL. I've been going to CFL games since I was a toddler. I have been capping them. I wasn't able to bet them, as an 8-year-old. But I certainly, would say who I thought was going to take care of business in the game. And I know the league very well. And we have a real interesting situation here that's led to a 23-9 run for me. One, we have the highest totals that we've ever had in the CFL because we have the best group of starting quarterbacks that we've ever had in the CFL. All of these starting quarterbacks have been in the CFL for a long time. And it takes a long time to be able to succeed in the CFL. Ask Vernon Adams. Vernon Adams was a bad quarterback who could have got picked up for a cup of coffee in his first 6 to 8 years in the CFL. Ask Trevor Harris. Trevor Harris wasn't a good quarterback in the CFL until his late 30s. It's a very wide field, and it's extremely difficult for quarterbacks that have played all their life in the NFL-sized field to come up to Canada and deliver. They don't. They can't. They never do. And I mean never. Okay. KC Printers. Maybe KC Printers is the only one I've ever seen be able to come up to the NFL and start delivering right away. Doug Flutie. KC Printers, Doug Flutie. Warren Moon. I mean, it's not a long list of quarterbacks who've been able to do it. And we're talking about, KC Printers not as much as but KC Printers immediately got a job with the Chiefs where he backed up and was a third stringer at times. The idea that Caden Salter, from Liberty and from Colorado will be able to come up here and deliver, I don't believe it can happen. And there's so many reasons why. First off, his backup plan, James Butler, has been put on the reserve roster for week 9. Limited in practice on Monday and Tuesday. He's listed as questionable on the team's injury report, so we'll see if he goes. BC also lost Joshua Donovan. Now, Joshua Donovan, just to show the situation that the offensive line has for the BC Lions, it's a weak offensive line. Joshua Donovan has been on the practice squads of many CFL teams for years. He's a high-character player. That was Josh Donovan's first ever start in the CFL, and he gets hurt. They already had released Dejon Allen a few days earlier. So there we go. So that begins this idea that not only will Salter not have an offensive line behind him, but he may not even have James Butler. Okay, so there we go. Now let's talk about, before we even get into BC's defense and all that and that other side thing, let's talk about the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. So what is it that you need when you play the worst team in the league? We talk about it all the time in every sport. You need accountability from the favorite. Now, I don't count baseball as a team sport, so baseball isn't part of this. I'm talking NBA, NHL, NFL. In those sports, when you go up against the worst team, you need accountability from the favorite. You need the favorite to win. And if they don't, they can sometimes play down to the level of their opposition. We have the Bombers in the most perfect situation. They just lost 52-30 at home to the Stampeders last week. In front of their home crowd, they were just embarrassed. And this is the team that leads the league in sacks. Their secondary leads the league in pass knockdowns. Their defense was atrocious. O'Shea is a defensive coach. He's not going to stand for this. So we have back-to-back games at home where they were just embarrassed by Vernon Adams and the Calgary Stampeders offense. You know, with a quarterback who hasn't thrown an interception all year, a quarterback and a running back in Dedrick Mills who is dominating. Going up against Caden Salter with a messed up offensive line and a very possibility that James Butler won't be a running back. So there we go. So now let's move on to, I have 7 bets, as you can see, running along the bottom. So my breakdown just covered Winnipeg first half -3.5, Winnipeg full game -6, Winnipeg double result, BC Lions first half team total under 11.5, and BC Lions full game team total under 23.5, which I think is probably the best bet on the board. The problem is, if it's 52-17, will you get a stop in that last drive? If Caden Salter's been terrible all year, maybe Chase Bryce comes in at that point. So now let's get into the other 2 bets that I've made. And a lot of people have joined me on it, and these aren't the slam dunks. I have the first half under 26.5 at +100 and the full game under 54.5. And part of our 23-9 run in the CFL over the last 32 bets is on unders. We've been just destroying unders, and we've been attacking these teams that now have their backup quarterbacks in. So let's talk about the other side of the fence, and that's when the Bombers have the ball with Drew Brown at quarterback. We know that Ryan Dinwiddie took over the Red Blacks, and he decided that Jake Maier, a journeyman who's never had a successful season in the CFL, he picked Jake Maier to be the starting quarterback over Drew Brown. It was a questionable decision. Obviously, the Red Blacks have gotten off to a terrible start, and you can question Dinwiddie doing that because it broke up the locker room. Then he said that it was a distraction now with Drew Brown. We have to trade him. So they traded him back to the Bombers, where he'd been a backup and a very, very good backup for a long time. And he also said, look, he just doesn't have the arm strength. He doesn't have the arm strength. So what did we see from Drew Brown in the last week? He went 24 of 40. Now, this is against the worst defense in the Canadian Football League, the Calgary Stampeders. 24 for 40 for 249 yards, 1 touchdown, and 4 interceptions. 4 interceptions. So what do the Bombers need to succeed? They need Brady Oliveira to smash and grab. They need Brady Oliveira, the best running back in the CFL, to go for 125. For opposition defenses to load the box to stop Brady Oliveira. Well, here's the thing. The BC Lions have by far the best run defense in the CFL. And I mean by far. They're averaging like 54 yards allowed per game on the ground. It's better than the second best rush defense by 50 yards, by 45 yards. So we have the best run defense in the CFL. You'll hear a lot of people say, and this happened last week when we were talking about the game, saying, well, look at the BC Lions secondary. They're terrible. They allow so many yards. That's because teams can't run on them. And they know they can't run on them. So all they're doing is throwing and throwing and throwing. That's part of it. Now, I mean, there's more. The secondary isn't very good, sure. But now we have Drew Brown, who can't stretch defenses because of his lack of arm strength, going up against the team where Brady Oliveira is not going to be able to run. I mean, it just takes me to the land of unders. The land of unders. I got to pull up the worksheet for. We need Peter Loshak to write that song, "The Land of Unders." So there you go. 7 bets for me. $2,100 invested. The most I've invested in a CFL game since I went down to Costa Rica in 2017. Regular season game. Since I went down to Costa Rica in 2017. I'm pumped up, man. I am pumped up. So Jerry Davis says, Jimmy, all those lines are 1 point higher or lower for me on CFL. Do you still like them? Well, let's go over the line history and we can talk about which ones that we like and which ones that we don't like here. Also, I like this game so much that I haven't bet any of the other 3 games in the CFL. And I'm like, how do you bet any of them when you're this confident in this one? Like, when am I ever going to be this confident in a game? So the Lions opened up plus 5.5. They're now plus 7.5. I think it's fine. I think 7.5 is fine. I think the double result is better. We looked last night. I got the minus 130 on the double result. It's now minus 155. I think that's fine. This total is now a 54 or 53.5. Look, I didn't get the opener. I got 54.5. I didn't get the opener. I was a little. I waited till the Chase Bryce Caden Salter decision was made. So I honestly, I like the Bombers a lot more than I like the under. I think that it's the everything correlates with the Lions not being able to score. It's very tough for defenses to deliver when they're on the field for so long. And they get off the field and they sit there and it's a 2-and-out immediately from Caden Salter. So this is a big, big investment. Warbuck says, can the Blue Bombers stop running quarterbacks? It's a good question, Warbucks. Caden Salter can't beat you with his arm. Vernon Adams can. That's why Vernon Adams was able to dominate the Bombers, because if the Bombers put a spy on Vernon Adams and add people to the box to stop Diedrich Mills, what does Vernon Adams do? He beats them through the air. Vernon Adams came into that game with 17 touchdown passes and 0 interceptions. Caden Salter can't beat you through the air. Can't do it. So you can put a spy on Caden Salter and not get hurt by it. You can add players to the box and not get hurt by it. So I don't think it's a fair comparison to what Vernon Adams is doing or did last week to what Caden Salter is going to try to do this week. So there you guys go. And it's a great question, Warbucks. But I don't think that Caden Salter, I don't think finishes the game. I think they go back to Chase Bryce here. And Warbuck says, I'm a Deion Sanders, Colorado Buffalo fan. Salter is terrible. The Bombers, also Bombers money line can be used as a money line parlay piece. The Bombers double result can be used as a parlay piece. It was funny. Spooner was looking at ways to bet it too. He saw the Bombers to score first and win. And I was like, that is a little. Sean White is a great kicker for the Lions. If the Lions win the toss and they run and they get a nice run back, they're going to be in field goal position. Remember, the field goal posts in the CFL are right at the goal line, which of course is inane. But that is because of the possible injuries of wide receivers running across the goal line, of course. But that is our show for today. I cannot wait for today's action, man. It's starting real soon. Thank you guys for rocking with us. Jose Perez, Warbucks, Toby Lane. There's my man, Toby Lane. Says Salter did quite good last week when he took over, Jim. Yeah. We can go back over his numbers. Yeah, I mean, the game was, over. It was well in hand. The Argos defense is terrible. The Bombers defense is much better than the Argos defense. And Salter, what did he do? I have it here. Salter went 9 of 15 for 121 yards. He had 4 carries for 12 yards. Look, Toby Lane, I'm not trying to sell you anything. And your play of the day, if it cashes, I will be so impressed. This is what I do in the CFL. I attack the wounded. And when did I start succeeding in CFL this year? As soon as Bo Levi Mitchell got hurt, Nathan Rourke got hurt. All of a sudden, we're picking up 4 units a game. So, thank you guys so much, Mark A, GeoBed, Warbucks, TJ, Justin McKelvey. Thank you guys so much, Man, Bear, Pig. Love capping with all of you guys, even when we don't agree. It's not about agreeing. It's just about information. It's just about information here. So thank you guys so much for rocking with us. Morgan Spooner, TV Jones, Jerry Davis, Rob Free, Sharpie, DC Capper, A, Yo D, Nasty Nate, 40 Kid, Light Cheese, Robert Cherry, Londo. Thank you guys so much for rocking with us. Thank you to Swiggy on the ones and twos. Let's get this money. I only have one bet that I might be adding, and that's in the Giants-Padres game. You know what that means, which is such a gift to me, is that I can now focus fully and start capping tomorrow's card right this very minute. And that's what I'm going to be doing right now, is focusing on tomorrow's card. So let's get this money, man. Let's get this money. Thank you guys for rocking with us. Enjoy the daily session with Dabby Cab and Dutch Boy Fresh. Chapadelic, funky Chapadelic. Let's get this money, man. Leche. Hey, los bookmakers.
It's easier to sleep in the black. When you're losing your ass and feeling so, you know what to do. Tune in to Pop Sports Radio. Easier to sleep in the black. It's easier to sleep in the black. It's a roller coaster ride, you're gonna catch a bad beat. No problem, keep your head up and just bet the spreadsheet. It's easier to sleep in the black. It's easier to sleep in the black. All thanks to Jeff Slaughter, these shows have our backs. POD's always rolling, especially the stats. Easier to sleep in the black. It's easier to sleep in the black. We got Jimmy, Jose, Dabby and the fam, Dutch Wine Time, Spooner and OG Wham. So hit the like button, don't say that you can't. If you know what's best, just put your money on tape.